That's okay.
There we go.
I'll put tape up on it.
And welcome to a new episode of BioBooks. It's a terrible name.
Featuring Sig.
Featuring Sig, exactly. And we're on neurodiversity. We have the NeruoTribes is the name of the book, talking about neurodiversity. We have a great conversation at the end of the show tonight with Rosa.
Her name's Shannon Rosa, and she runs the account called Thinking People's Guide to Autism. It's a great account.
We'll have website addresses and stuff at some point. I still didn't get that together, but I did get some cute little transitions together and things like that. I thought, yeah, at least I'm learning stuff about the software, the OBS software.
No.
Oh, you got quiet.
I have Beth. Go.
I am. Getting water.
Well, that's okay. I just had the same thing with my son.
Yeah. Well, she goes, "Are you talking about me? You got so quiet."
I was talking about my wife, so I don't know. So anyways, as far as the interview goes, it was really nice. I guess we'll say a little bit more about it. I screwed up the intro both live, where I didn't
surprise.
Exactly, where I didn't even record it, and then even in the re-recording, it comes in in the wrong spot. That being said, though, everything after that, it actually starts to tighten up, kind of like these shows do, where it gets better once I sort of calm down, I suppose is the best way to put it.
Yeah, I'm sort of on the Thursday 10 o'clock show high right now. You know, you're super excited at the same, got the butterflies in my belly a little. And yeah, usually by the fifth minute.
I mean, it's going to be a good show. We're really coming down the home stretch with the NeruoTribes, and it's been a lot of fun. It's been life.
A long book.
It was a long book, and then I think you missed a week. I got sick and missed a week, so it's dragged out too. But in a good way. I mean, it's been it literally has been life changing for me. I mean, it's. So let's just start there. We starting with chapter 5. It's called toxic parenting, and it's.
One of my takes is there were these psychiatrists who had kids with autism, and or patients. Sorry, patients had parents who had autism, and they just blamed it on the mothers. It was just, and it was one or two psychiatrists who really latched onto that, and the rest of the world did too.
Well, let's talk about the context of the time, the era that they're in. So it's we're talking about between 1930 and about 1950, and children, caring about children in general, is sort of a new concept. The idea of giving them much time. Other than anything is new to the field.
It's not even 100 years old if you really think about it.
And so in that time period, this is before they're even looking at autism. Most of the diagnosis for children that are exhibiting a lot of these symptoms is schizophrenia, childhood schizophrenia, which apparently the symptoms are very similar, I guess, or at least that
was before,
and
before
so Asperger's and Frankel's was one of Asperger's assistants. They're working together, and the sort of the thought process, the philosophy is starting to coalesce. They're seeing these. Oh, I'm sorry.
No. So if you really think about it, Frankel was basically the person that connected to the kids. He was the one that got all the data out of them. And
right.
Asperger sort of was the brains behind what that meant.
Absolutely. And then we
got used.
And we spoke about this a little bit last week. The Frankels then moved to Maryland and wind up working for Canner. So the two people that discover autism, so to speak, both had their right-hand man and woman. That Frankel's came as a package. It was the husband and wife.
Yeah, they were both brilliant.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely, and really, I mean, like, absolutely. Even in the book, they had to be behind the scenes, sort of tying the things together. This is why it's one of the reasons why across the world, it's opposite ends of the world. Two people are essentially discovering or coming about the same sort of philosophy.
Well, I mean, it's those two people. One of my thoughts was, do you think Frankel had autism, and maybe or like some sort of similar way of connecting, where he was able because he was like really good at it.
Well, it's just, I mean, like, it's like I've said about you. Like I think some people are sensitive to either. Well, first things first. There's clearly typical traits for people with Asperger's. Like, I mean, I don't know if it's clear or not, but they talk about it. It's sort of woven throughout the book. They mention all these sort of characteristics. I relate it to almost like somebody with Downs as far as the physical characteristics. Like, that being said, the only thing that rings true for me is the weird voice, the weird sounding voice, sort of. They mentioned that 2 or 3 different times.
Yeah, like they'll.
Well, just a high pitch. Well, I don't know.
What's yours? Is yours high pitched? Because some go deep.
Well, I think mine goes up. I was talking to Sarah about that tonight. As a matter of fact, I don't know. It's sort of a new thing I'm kind of on to as far as these character traits. It's something I see it in the book as I'm reading through it. Different people mention it as they're describing these children or these. Now they're sort of.
It's the way they can process the world and think about things. It's the precise way. I was like telling Beth, it's like they can do other things, but they're also processing whatever thing they are thinking about in the moment.
Well, getting back to where we are in the book, Canner, the Frankels, they're seeing the patients that are coming to them are people with money. They can't afford it. When they get these parents are loving parents, they can afford it. They tend to be like engineers, smart people. This theory starts to come together. This refrigerator parents, where what's happening to these kids? Now, this is 1930s. They're still trying to discover autism. Now, we're going to flash forward too, because I mean, I feel like we drag this portion of the book out forever.
Well, we both find it so fascinating.
It is, and it is fascinating. So we'll
get back to it with that green buyer guy that was friends with Tesla. We'll talk about that.
I'm gonna try and speed up to that we got to get through this bedroom.
That's my favorite part of the book.
Oh, absolutely, and that's gonna probably take up the majority of the conversation. But we got to get to this Bedlam guy who like takes the ball. So he picks up the ball from Asperger's. So Asperger's and Frankel's, you can see it in their writings and stuff. They're pointing the finger at the parents. Even them, as caring as they are and as sensitive as they are to these children, the parents are driving them a little batty now too.
Yeah, more importantly, the mothers.
The mothers, right? And I think Sig has latched upon it because there is a cute sub story that we might as well bring up now as far as the mothers go. The sort of well, go ahead, Sig. Is the women's schizophrenia?
Yeah. So like, can you remind me of the person? You start it.
Well, okay. So
it will jog in my memory.
Around 1940, Canner is out in, I think he's out in Missouri or somewhere, but he's working with somebody, and they're trying to figure out the same thing that we're talking about, which is like, what's happening to these kids? Why are these kids turning into this? The Asperger's and the Frankels have posited this sort of idea that the parents are almost like helicopter parents. They're called refrigerator parents, and they're filling their kids with ridiculous facts that no child would ever want to know about. And that's just the way they think about it.
But like another part, they're closed off. That's why part of it is called refrigerator. There's no love for the kid. The kid doesn't feel love because the parents don't accept them.
So Karen's all about this anyways, and his writings are developing it. He's picked up the ball. He's moving it forward. What they seize upon is, well, some of these moms, right? The World War II has started. All the men are gone. Now these moms are getting careers. They're starting like to
be independent a little.
kind of be the men. They're shaving their hair. They're starting to look like men, some of them, and this is definitely what's making these kids crazy. I mean, this is what's making them go nuts. And there's like that's picks up steam. Go ahead.
Yeah, because to him, right, to Canner, that is so unusual that it makes him crazy, so it must make the kids crazy.
I mean, that's exactly it. And that time, that time, there's no shortage of people that love this idea.
And they take advantage of it a little bit.
They absolutely do, and that's where we find ourselves with this Bedlam guy. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing his name right.
Yeah, I don't know. He's the guy that he was living in Vienna, and he went to Auschwitz.
Right.
But he was able to get out.
Yeah.
He never had a degree. He's a fraud.
He is a fraud. Without a doubt, he's a fraud. And he pontificates like worse than we do. Like when it's just us talking about how we're going to save the world. Like this guy, he really thought a lot of himself. And maybe like there's a lot of, he does some good, but for the most part, he just sets the movement, slows down the movement, or slows down the idea that this is prevalent and that it's.
Because do you know why he was able to get away with it? Was because there wasn't a lot of child psychiatrists out there.
Right.
Maybe 3,
right.
Like, Canner was the first. And then, so this guy's like the 5th, maybe. And so there's only like 4 people writing papers.
Right. Well, and these papers that they're writing are growing up female. Why working mothers feel guilty. Children must learn to fear. Why does man become a hater? They pretty much are all bashing the parents. Oh, and the moms especially. But that's just sort of the way things coast. And as far as I can tell, and I was going to ask you, as far as I can tell, nothing really changes until the 70s. I mean, like, it's all heading that direction. And nobody's even...
And then in the 80s, like...
Except for the parents.
The parents are starting to, like... There's probably really educated parents that are starting to really just speak out against sort of that ideas.
Well, and that's it. And we'll meet one of these parents. Now, this mother is a little bit further along.
If you think about it, in a sense, she fought back against the anti-vaxxers eventually.
Right. So
that was her fight.
So the first generation of this are these parents that are the ones that have literally been having the meetings with Canner, like sending the letters, 30-page letters, and kind of sealing their own fate. But these are the same parents now. They're sort of grouping together, and they're finding each other in these smaller communities. Now, so that's pretty much it as far as the bad side or the downside. Things start to get better in the 70s. In the 70s are the wheelhouse for like my autism or Asperger's, or at the very least, this is when people start realizing that this is a thing, and there's people that have it, and that there's a spectrum. Mm-hmm. And I titled this portion "A New Hope." Just I thought it was kind of a cute title.
Because it fits in with Star Wars and the like geek fandom.
So the first guy that our author introduced us to is Gernsback, and I believe, does he start out in Europe? He's in Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
and then he like, I think the Nazis again.
Right.
Yeah. He goes over to America and starts doing stuff with like crystal radios. You can explain that better than me.
And actually, that's a great jumping off point. So that's what he does. He starts selling crystal radios dirt cheap, and it's the start of You Can Do It Electronics. And I wanted to get a link. There's a store in Boston.
Funny joke. Circuit City, Best Buy, all these places owe it to him. Like
Everything to this guy. I mean, like
Radio Shack wouldn't exist.
Radio Shack, the crazy guy that sold TVs down in New York. Every one of them. Like this guy Gernsback, he's got his hands in all of this. Well, it's science. Really, what it evolves into is sort of science fiction. He is the editor and author of The Amazing Stories, which is in the early 1900s or whatever, in 1900 on, let's so to speak. These magazines that come out and they tell these fantastic stories, and it turns out that a lot of these people that were writing these short stories inside of this little magazine, serial, comic book sort of thing, later on in life, like much later on in life, wind up being diagnosed.
It was like Yasmith, right? Some of the famous ones wrote letters to the editor.
I Yasmoth. All of them were inspired. So in the book, and I don't have time. Like really, this is sort of the wheelhouse. If you think you might have Asperger's and you want to feel good about yourself, this is your people. Like
he's friends with Tesla.
He's best friends with Tesla. They talk about this Goodman guy that is like all these people are just right up my alley. These are people that I would have gotten along with. This is the stuff we would have done. I built a crystal radio set when I was probably 8-9 years old. Like a lot of these stories are things that I did. It's crazy. In fact, that gets right to it. So,
I want to talk for a second about the ham radio story you were talking about. Yeah.
That's where I was going to. But maybe we should maybe just sort of kick around this Gernsback guy. He's a big the book. There's no official diagnosis or Asperger's.
Yeah, so like if you think about it, the book started with Clavendash, and he's doing another one of someone that's 300 years later that was just like Clavendash, but had more like.
It's that's a great point, and the way I saw it almost very similar to you, and it's like he's giving you this like inspiration, like everything can be reset, done again, done better now. I thought that same thing. So in Gernsback, all these people are getting inspired, and they're meeting each other because in the back of this magazine is sort of the original comment section for everything, right. Yeah. And so these people they're meeting each other. They're putting together. So he has this. He made a movie, I guess, called Ralph 124C41. Was it a movie or a book?
I forget, but
so I couldn't.
His imagination must have been.
He was constantly going and his imagination sparks this Tommy guy. I don't even have this story in there because it's. I think for the author, I think that Tommy and that Tommy story was sort of this connection because like Tommy was diagnosed with Asperger's. Tommy had, like you learn this whole story about Tommy, and he is just this kid who is wrapped up in science fiction. And the story lost me. I read it twice, and I only thing I could see is it was sort of a device to get this guy who was never really diagnosed with Asperger's, but a lot of historians say, oh yeah, he probably had it. But they're saying that about everybody nowadays, right?
Yeah.
So it was sort of the tie that person.
Well, yeah, like someone who like engulfed themselves into the sci-fi to show how far-reaching it was.
Right.
Tommy created all of the fan clubs.
Right, exactly. And in those fan clubs, you have this other guy that comes out, this Lee Felsenstein, who
he's the reason there's trolls. So.
He's absolutely the reason there's trolls. He's like the cunts from Cam World would love this guy. He well, at least he would love what this guy made, which is
nobody knew who it was.
He really is the real father of the internet when you think about it.
Feldstein?
Yeah, Feldstein. I'll just a quick skim of it. He goes into quite a bit of detail, but he was born into like they call them red diaper doper babies, or at least Michael Savage does, and it winds up in the book. He calls him a diaper doper baby or something like that, which is a Michael Savage term of endearment for American communists that were born sort of in that time frame of.
Michael Savage is wild.
He is wild. I actually listened to him quite a bit.
You do.
Yeah. No, not anymore. I haven't in years, but I did listen to him quite a bit.
Yeah, he was popular for like he was never as big as Rush, but he was somebody else that got a lot of attention. But anyway, sorry, we're moving on.
Yeah, well, and I gladly talk about it. I kind of lost interest with him, and he went a little bit crazy towards, like, I don't know, like maybe the last 10 years. Do
you think as you got older, you started to lose more interest in those, like, sort of like echo chamber, sort of, they say the same thing over and over again, guys?
No, I don't, because I still listen to Glenn Beck every day, and there's nobody that's more like echo chambery, like just.
Now, do you listen to Glenn Beck because you like him or because it's part of your routine?
Part of my routine. I do a lot of stuff because it's my routine. Like, I mean, more than I recognized before I started reading this book, to say the least. That's why I said to somebody.
Do you listen to things on 2 times speed?
Sometimes it depends. Like I said, I sped up this book because it's just it's not dragging on at all. It's wonderful, but we're dragging it on for the show, and we got books that I want to read this Chaos book. I really want to read a smutty women's novel.
Those ones will fly through because they're not.
That's true too.
My mom bought the book because I was telling her about it. I think it's like 630 pages.
Which book? That one you were.
No, this one. Like those smut novels we'll do in 2 weeks.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So, Philstein. Let's finish with Philstein too, because
you can explain to me how bulletin board, how it works, because I was confused. Yeah.
So, like I said, I'm probably not going to do it justice, but he's working in Berkeley, like
fucking lib.
Oh, total lib, right? He's born into a communist family, and they're on campus. They're ready to riot. They want to do something about somebody. Somebody's going to get thrown out. It's all that stuff that's always there, and they need to get in touch with each other. And right now, it's just a literal cardboard cork bulletin board in the basement, and these liberals are so dumb. They're just slapping the pictures right on top of each other. They're not even spreading them out on the bulletin board. So, like, you got to rip through them to find stuff. And he realizes, this Fielenstein guy realizes this is not working. And that the building that they are all housed in has these old mainframes, these old computers or something that he starts working on, and pretty much turns it into a bulletin board system. And then he turns it into a bulletin board system, which was and turns into sort of pre-internet. You have a phone line. They have a server, which was a big computer at the time. It would have 4 to 6, 7, 8 modem cards in it, and you'd have 4 to 6 phone lines in. And depending on how much money you had and what you wanted to do with it, you could get a T1 line in, but even back then, that was thousands and thousands of dollars. But there was other ways. Anyways.
And would it be like in their dorm, so it's connected to each room? So you can communicate with each other that way?
So I can't really speak to even what was in the book as far as that goes. I think he kind of skims over that. I don't think he even really understood it. I don't know. Anyways, what it was like when I get involved in the early 90s is, yes, that I don't know about colleges. I wasn't in college. But if you had a little computer at your house, you have a phone line, there would be a phone number. You'd have the software. You would dial the phone number. It would connect to this other computer. And then you'd be talking to this other computer. Now, the other computer had this server software where it was like a forum. It was like a chat or whatever. You would go in. But there wasn't, even if there was like 4 or 5 other guys there, you could you would be able to see that they were there and you could kind of chat with them, but it wasn't anything like this nowadays where you see them pop in and out and everything like that. What you were doing is you were either sending messages or like we were playing turn by turn games. It was called like there was this Zork one and there's this one. It's all just text based, but it was. I had so much fun. Spaceships and galaxies, and you were just running like. I had so much fun. I can't hear myself. It's not good. Anyways, this is the guy. This guy, and there's another gentleman with him that helped start it. But he invents these bulletin board systems, and his idea behind it was so that all of these libs, literally all of these libs, could get in touch with each other and network. And I like
and organize
the
destruction of America
and throw out the establishment in the college or whatever. Now,
no, it's funny. So if you think about it, like you would be like that for in college at Berkeley, but for conservative because that's what you grew up in. These libs, if they grew up in conservative families, would be more for conservative and be obsessed with.
I kind of wonder. I find more libs are populate the arts, and I wonder if it's because like they're just more in tune with something, like nature or art or something. I don't know, but I do. I mean, like they own the entertainment industry. They're all over, like, the news, and they're all over everything, really. It's very upsetting to see them all over everything. So anyways, that sort of runs into Fighting the Monsters, which is the last chapter that we're at, or that I'm at. And it's a perfect place to lead into the interview. Yeah. So we'll sort of come back to it and finish it up. Let's just turn to KMS and wrap up.
Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah.
And as far as that goes, I don't know if I even put my notes down. It was a good week. I can't.
I'm not. Yeah, like I think I have like 45 minutes of this show. I'm at the calls.
Same. That's crazy. We had like the same schedule this week. Like middle of the week or earlier in the week, and we were at the same pace too.
So what did you think of the criticism about Jerry?
I didn't notice it at first. I agree with almost all of it. In fact, I don't know. I was rewatching the Jerry show today, trying to see if there's anything I could kind of go against the grains on. And I really couldn't. The one thing that I thought that he was engaged for him. I mean, he comes across even older.
The silly shit, he's not.
What's that?
The silly shit, he just is.
He's not having any of it. Absolutely not. He doesn't want to. He didn't want to even be playful at the beginning, but he was engaged in the beginning. The calls are when you absolutely shut it down, and it's just like there's no coming back after the first call.
Even his arguments about transgender stuff is just so tired. How many times have we heard it from him?
I like Jerry a lot, and I even like them together. They're right. Like I can't argue with them. I think I told you it just wasn't. There wasn't any magic. That's not to say though that they shouldn't do it. But Jerry's got to.
Well, I agree. Like
play along.
Like when they do it segments, they could do a segment.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. So that's a good point, and that's something I wanted to talk about. Was what could have been, what should Jerry do, and what would be cool. Let's start with what would be cool, because that's what you were just talking about, like doing a segment. Like what should have been and what would have been cool is if Jerry would have just done his show whenever, and I know that it wouldn't have turned into this eventually because Kirk started doing the case and was all over the place, and so they couldn't have done a schedule where they were doing these crossovers. But if they could have just done like a 15-minute crossover, Kirk, I do believe at that point Kirk would have brought a lot of his conservative people over to Jerry's show sooner, which is partially Blind Mike's take. Blind Mike's take is a little bit more grandiose, which is that like Kirk will make or break you, and that's silly coming from. I think that's his take. I shouldn't put words into his mouth, but that was my reading of it.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah,
I think he was very just sort of saying Kirk was acting like he doesn't have power.
Well,
and he was sort of saying you have a little power. That was my take. Like he wasn't saying like, dude, you could rule the world, but if he said not to, like when he gets fired up, people will do it either as a joke,
right,
or two as just they'll do it. There'll be at least 100 people that do it.
So how many followers do you think Blind Mike has? Like not followers, Patreon.
He has
subscribers.
Maybe 400.
Yeah. Okay. So that's so yeah. I mean, that in it. I actually think that Blind Mike has an inflated sense of what Kirk can do, and I think Kirk has a under appreciation of what he can do, and that's why there's sort of well anyway. So that was sort of the discrepancy or their little argument. Dave's take, and I wrote that down somewhere because
was it the one where he basically just said you shouldn't feel bad, and I agree.
Right. And on top of not shouldn't feel bad, the other thing is that Dave is saying that Jerry didn't want to be there. I'm not sure if that's the case or not.
Yeah, no, I didn't pick up on that.
No.
Dave has a different sort of point of view than we would.
Why is that?
Like, because he's worked with Jerry.
Yeah, that's right. He's been.
So he could probably read him a little better than we would think.
That's an excellent point. So, yeah. So the Jerry stuff didn't have as much oomph as I thought, which I think is indicative of the fact that Kirk is becoming more of a Barstool figure than a WEEI figure as well. Like,
oh yeah, I think since the pandemic, he really turned more into he even stopped talking about it as much.
Yeah, and with time, and I'll say I do feel the fatigue that he feels. He's tired of a lot of things that Jerry isn't tired of talking about too. Like he's tired of talking about them, and fair enough. It's his show, and it's a great show. Speaking of which, so the tickets went on sale. Did you even try and buy them? Did you go on the website or anything?
Yeah, I looked at them. Boomer got me. He's holding a ticket. I just have to convince my wife. I'm working on it.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Are you gonna go?
I don't know yet. I didn't try and get a ticket. It sounds like there might still be a few tickets, but they said technically they sold out, which I'm not sure what that means.
Well, we're in the orchestra, so if you try to get a ticket, we can maybe be close to each other.
Yeah, well, I'll have to see. I'll have to see. The other thing is, it's in March, right?
Yeah.
I think it's the week after my wife's birthday. So
was your wife's birthday March 5th?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's March 25th.
Oh, 25th? Oh, 2 weeks. 2 weeks would be fine then.
Birthdays are hard, huh?
You know what's funny about birthdays? As we just sort of transition.
We're doing our web thinking.
I know. My family didn't really celebrate. Like,
is that a religious thing?
No, I think it was just sort of a lack of engagement thing, and forgetting and stuff like that. But like, my wife was horrified. Like, every birthday they have like a cake. Sometimes they have 2 cakes. And, like,
well, are they libs? Like, you gotta have a gluten-free cake.
No. Well, my wife's side are all from Western New York, but like the conservative Western New York.
Oh, really? Nice.
Pennsylvania.
Oh, so they love bio, dude.
Yeah, right. Exactly. They do. They're actually more liberal than I am. Actually, all of them are more liberal than me. Even the dad.
Your wife's pretty liberal, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Go figure, right?
Yeah.
So, well, let's get back to the
show.
The show, and
I was so cringe when Rico Bosco called and as Jerry. Jerry did not like it.
I didn't like it at all, but I thought it was hilarious.
Dude, anything Rico does is funny to me. I mean Jerry. Anything Jerry does. You know.
I agree. That actually would be a funny clip to isolate. Like if I was doing a full wrap up show, just like the call and just isolating Jerry's face the whole time Rico's doing Jerry.
That was a funny clip that Kirk had with Jerry. Like,
oh, excuse me, 1 second.
Yeah. It's the clip where hey everybody.
Sorry about that. I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem.
What time? 10:30.
What was Jerry? He was reading something. He was doing the closed captioning for the.
Yeah, well,
and Kurt knows if he made a podcast where he just read every terrorist message.
It is. It's great. His voice is fantastic. I think I was telling somebody that my wife probably thinks that Kirk is Jerry because I woke up every morning to the Kirk, not Kirk and Callahan, but Jerry and John for years and years. And
do you miss John?
Yes, I do. I like John a lot. Well, see, that was another thing I thought about bringing up too. Was how much my life paralleled his and Curtis's as far as the drinking and stuff goes. Like same time frame and everything.
When John, if you hear John dies, will you get sad?
Not. I mean, yeah, I would be sad, but not like crying sad or anything.
What about Glenn Beck?
Yeah, I probably. Well, I'd be sad because it's gonna screw up my routine pretty. I mean, like when Russ.
Sorry, dude. That's just so cute. It's just funny. Like
it's like a comfort blanket. I mean, like I've been listening to Beck since 2001. They switched. I was listening to G. Gordon Liddy, and they switched from G. Gordon Liddy to Glenn Beck. Like right after 9/11, and I had a conniption then when they switched G. Gordon Liddy. He was great. I'll tell you what, for whatever I am or have, the way he would just sort of machine gun read he would just read articles out of the paper. Just it was fantastic, very soothing.
That's funny.
Yeah.
No, and I don't want you to think I'm making fun of you. It's just
I don't, and I don't even mind. It's like it's so. Excuse me.
Because it's like it makes sense in a way. That's what's so funny about it. Like, it's a lot of the people I work with. Though that is what happens to them. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, it's I don't know, but it's nice to have. It really is nice to have a name for it and something that I can point at. That is something that I've been trying to do my whole life, and it's ironic that it was a running joke, and I just never really. So I was wondering. I was thinking about
nobody in your until you were in your 20s said it, right?
Nobody ever said it until I was in my 20s. Well,
yeah. So you're a little disadvantaged.
So there was always this thing, right? And they say it. It's in everything. It's in this book. Like you're reading it, and you read these stories about these kids, and it's like, even in the book, right? It's almost intangible. I can't tell you why I make things awkward. I just make things awkward. It happens. I can't control it, and I can't stop it. I can stop it, but I mean, then I just have to completely mute who I am. I have to change. I know everything about me.
That doesn't seem fair to me.
Well, and so isn't that where what we dance on all the time? Isn't that where I'm at, where we're at, where it's like, well, but at some point, you do need to sort of.
Well, no, within reason, like you can't go around killing people and saying, I got autism.
That's definitely for myself, and I'm really and this gets back to our special guest who I'm going to play.
That reminds me, Marjorie Taylor Greene, basically.
You get home.
Huh?
Well, what did she do?
Actually, we can pivot because Montante, they did a funny segment with Tom Shattuck. Did you listen?
No, I haven't listened yet. I told you I haven't even finished Kirk yet.
Yeah, Montante said they ranked like the most attractive politicians. Libs versus conservatives.
Oh, I got to get in on that. I might have to reach out to Montante now. That's right up my alley.
Yeah.
Kristen Sinema is
Yeah.
way up there. Lauren Boebert. Yeah, of course, yeah. Marjorie Taylor Greene. I love that chick. I actually like that chick. The two that I take the most shit for.
They said AOC.
Well, AOC's good, but she's not on my top dogs. The one that
you gotta pick 3 for each side.
Well, that's what I was about to do. So the chick that danced Trump out of office. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
She's not really a big Twitter personality, but she's got like thousands of followers. But she just dances kind of special needs-ish, but a little hot too. And I don't know. She's always so Cinema is a lib. I can't think of her name, but everybody will know.
Is Cinema really a lib? She was speaking at Mitch McConnell's fucking banquet or whatever. This weekend.
I don't know enough bisexual conservatives. Let's just put it that way.
Fair enough. Yeah. She's one of those about the money sort of politicians. Whatever's going to make me more money.
That is a hell of a topic, though, man. That is BioDude's wheelhouse.
But you got to admit, they all are.
What's that? Hot or crazy?
Crazy.
Crazy, yeah. Both sides, though, man. Both sides.
Yeah. And they're all about, every politician's about the money. There's none
exactly
on either side.
Oh, 100%.
Especially the ones that have been here for years.
But you also that brings up another interesting KMS topic, which is I absolutely love Shattuck. He's cool. And I love I think he will integrate well into the show, but it doesn't sound like the Kirk wants to give him more than which is fine too. I guess I don't know. I'd like to see more Shattuck, is what I'm saying.
Well, to be honest with you, there's a bit of Shattuck annoys Kirk.
I would agree with that, but
in a sense, like he reminded me of how he treated Jared Carabas, in that sort of more like almost like more friendly. Yeah. We're almost equals, not really, but
yeah, right. And I like that dynamic, and like that's what they. That's
Mike is slowly getting into that orbit too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. 100%, very much so. And the last couple of shows, even sort of the way I kind of see him, like
Kirk sometimes has like respects his opinions on.
Yeah, and you do see that, right? It's cool because it is a a relation, their relationship.
And I fuck anybody that says Mike fake laughs. It's not fake.
No. He loves comedy, and that's the thing. I really need to start watching his shows because I think we probably have a lot in common as far as that goes. That was something else I was thinking about was how much I loved comedy growing up, like stand-up comedy. Watching all the stand-up, and I haven't watched it in a long time, but I like those one-liners, and I still we're going to get to the point where I have all my little draft tweets that are that's what they are, like one line.
We got to do a segment on that.
Definitely. Yeah.
People are asking, I was telling Buddy about it, and he was saying it would be a good idea. Speaking of which, when are you going on Kirk and Off?
I haven't talked to Buddy since last week about that. He was in Florida or something. I don't know. He might still be in Florida. I haven't checked
No, he's not.
DMs or anything. I just been really what I've been doing is trying to get just sort of up to speed, like at home with just everything going on with school starting. Now I got band. I got band.
BioDude's wants to be a good bio dad.
Reasonable at the very least. I want, you know what it is. What I've come to saying is that I want my son to have other things to complain about to his therapist than me.
Yeah, that's smart, man. That's a logical way of thinking. Like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Termed in that way too.
Well, from talk,
no way. Yeah, there's no. Well, like I think like how you parent and how I parent is like I parent the way I parent, and it doesn't follow the rules about like when they go to bed or.
Well, I mean, that's a great point, right? And so we do have a religious corner on this show, and
yeah.
Okay. That leads right into it actually, because my little message today is about values, like your family values. And that was the message at church on Sunday, which is I'm just stealing his. And I'm also not doing it justice because I'm cutting it down to just a little piece that I took away, and I'm probably not even taking the right stuff away. But one of the things that I thought would be fun was he said, a good thing to do is ask your kids, ask your family what your family's values are. And so I did. And my sons were to not talk during Jeopardy, and no, I did, and it was funny in the sense that like it took a while to kind of pull it out of them, and it was
your son? He's like 13,
10. He'll be 11.
Yeah, no, dude, that like if he could like be real philosophical about it, I mean.
He was once like I only had to do one round with him on it and kind of get him in the right headspace, because and then he said like what is doing for others, like his things were the right areas. It made me feel good. They were like doing for others, caring. These are our family values things. It turned out nice, but I really wouldn't want like. It was okay. I'm not worried about it. He's not going to be a serial killer.
What was it? A born minus?
Well, see, that's the thing is, no, it was literally, he said, like, one of the family values is to help others, right?
Right, yeah.
And, another one was like, I don't even remember. I should have wrote them down, right?
He sounds like a lib to me.
Oh, yeah. Well, between his mom and me trying not to, I don't want to bias him with internal biases, Yeah. I'm trying my best. Who knows? See, that's the thing, though. No matter how hard you try,
so like I wonder sometimes if with you is conservative. Everything conservative, is it like a passion, a belief, or is it like just what you've always listened to? Right.
Well, so I think like my Twitter persona for BioDude 2010 would you read that and you go through that, and that is very much how I was raised. So that is the conservative that you get when you process them through sort of a
is that you? Is that
Baptist
one
Bible.
Of your masks? Was it BioDude 10?
So with the masking thing is like, for me, it was always a scenario situation. Like I was building scenarios. So that was just more, that was just how I guess so, but more in the bigger picture, like that's just how I was operating. Like it was a mask in the sense that it was a very set, easy routine. Oh, you know what? Here's a great example. Jerry Callahan is the perfect example of it. At some point, you just become what you're imitating. Jerry is doing like a bad version of Rush or a
horrible, yeah,
version of Dan Bongino, and you do that long enough, and you just sort of become that persona.
Let my dog out. Hold on.
That's okay. But so that is what I was saying, though, is that like the BioDude 2010 was sort of a persona or leaning into all of those characteristics that sort of make me. But BioDude 2020 is more really me. Certainly the last year or two. But even, from the beginning, because what happened was I got booted off for harassing the Biden administration.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I was just telling all my fans about it. And when I went back, I didn't really want to fight. After I came back and, as BioDude 2020, I didn't really want to fight as much anymore. Because I didn't want to get banned. And it happened all at the same time as Trump lost the election. And so I was sort of on the downside politically anyways. I didn't really want to engage too much.
It's not worth it in the end because they're like...
It was fun. I had a lot of fun, but I never changed anybody's mind. I think the best
that was the funny thing Jerry said. I want to have this conversation so I could change your mind.
Yeah, I think we're past changing people's minds.
Oh,
actually, it doesn't even seem to matter anymore. That's the sad thing.
Well, I think sometimes, like, at least with mental health stuff, sometimes conservatives are misinformed. I find
misinformed, not informed at all. I mean, and so again, that brings up a great thing. Our guest, that's her crusade right now. That's her crusade right now, is getting the information out. And as per our mission, we did not bring with us her website or the podcast that she's listening to. But if you do,
when we do a repost on Twitter, we can.
Absolutely, and she mentions it in this interview that we just did. This is Shannon Rosa, and we just sort of talk about her story and talk about, well, I guess, a little bit of my story. And then she talks about a podcast she's listening to and tells us a little bit about her story with her son. And her son features prominently in the book. I think early on, probably the third or fourth chapter, the boy with the green straws.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know. Do you want to? Should you want to start this now, or is there anything else we need to do? We should probably talk about the next book, or were we gonna? We could also talk about the next book's Chaos. Yeah, absolutely.
And we can talk about that. Talk about it. Both read a little of it maybe, and just sort of talk about what it's about, and then sort of do more KMS. Yeah,
that's fine. And I'd like to get. I think maybe getting Center Wrong on would be good. It's actually good conversation tonight about it. I believe he's sort of middle of the road. Hence his handle.
Cool.
So that could be fun if we can get that together. What is next week? Is there anything? We're gonna get into the holiday season. I was just thinking about that. We got.
Oh, yeah, I'm not doing it Thanksgiving.
I know.
If Christmas falls on a Thursday, I won't do it.
Well, that's the thing, is even those weeks and stuff. I mean, I think things are gonna get crazy during the holiday season. I'm sure it'll get crazy for the KMS too.
Yeah, we don't need to, because it's just different. You're doing different stuff.
Well, that's the thing, is so I don't know how big Chaos is, but it might be good to get Chaos done, and then just through the holidays just do little smutty books, or just little maybe we do one of those Destroyer series books, the Remo Williams things that I read all the time.
Yeah, or we could even do like classics that are shorter, like Eli Wiesel's Night.
I love that. I love that book.
Yeah.
About the concentration camps, his story. Yeah.
That was one of my, as a kid, for one grade, I was obsessed with researching about it.
It was I didn't get that obsessed. You know what I got obsessed with was Great Expectations. And then I got obsessed with Dickens in general. There's
too is Grapes of Wrath. That's a good book.
I did not read that one.
Oh, it's like 7. Yeah, it's.
Yeah, I did not read in high school at all. Any of the like. Well, I guess I did. I read Great Expectations, but
You know what I like? I like the like Iliad, Homer.
I didn't read many of them, but I enjoyed like Greek history and that stuff, and I do enjoy those stories, but I didn't read them myself.
Like the stories are could they be considered sort of like first sort of sci-fi-ish kind of ideas, like fantasy,
Which stories?
like Hercules and.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Oh, that's yeah. In fact, Ancient Aliens, the show on History Channel, has a season pretty much devoted to the idea that all of these ancient stories were just ancient man trying to explain things that they couldn't explain because they were like from the future, so to speak.
No,
But it is. There's a lot of like little short stories that I've always loved. We could even do poems. I don't know. I do. I like Robert Frost a lot, and I like Edgar Allan Poe a lot. But
yeah. Well, yeah. I really can't do the beatniks. I don't understand them. Like,
no, well, but you see, you're into like folk music, which is about the same sort of the same.
I would do lyrics.
Yeah.
You could do like lyrics to like Pete Seeger. There's another song that I'll send you. You should listen to. It's like I Want to Be an Engineer. It's by Pete Seeger's white sister. It came out in the '60s. Like she wanted to be an engineer, but she couldn't because she had to raise a family. And it's like all this stuff is interesting.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. Yeah, something like that would be interesting too. But yeah, do little one-offs will be cute, and then that way nobody's stressing out over the holidays and stuff. And
actually, I just had a question. So, like, do you have any obscure routine radio listening like that?
Well, I mean,
like car talk ish, sort of like.
Yes, then.
You mentioned at one point you have like a plant show you listen to.
That's what I was about to say. That's exactly it. It was the garden show. It was it's syndicated, but it was from around here. And the guy died, and then his son took over, and like the same last name. It's a cute show. And then I was a huge Mustard and Johnson guy. Like I listened to Mustard.
Yeah. They remind me of the Car Talk guys.
I like the Car Talk guys, but I mean, I didn't listen to them religiously or anything like that. I'm trying to think odd ones.
Or we could call them guilty pleasures.
Well, that's Glenn Beck. Like, I do not brag about that. Like, I'm just not proud of it. Like, he can be really over the top most of the time, almost all the time. But he's right a lot. It's just about
you didn't listen to him in your mind.
What's that?
What would happen if you didn't listen to him?
Nothing happened. It's not like that. It's like it's like one extra thing, but they just keep stacking up and stacking up, and there's times that you just can't listen to it.
You're like the order of political pundits.
What's that? The what?
You're a hoarder.
Hoarder, yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Hey, man.
So that was one of the first things that Twitter was a really great outlet for, was like be sort of like a pressure relief for when like my routines went to shit. Like I could just get in there and sort of hammer away at whatever, whatever was causing it. I don't know if I was even tweeting it or not. I was so mad. I got stuck in that traffic downtown like a week ago. There was a water main break, and it wasn't even that big, but I don't even know if it made the news, but I was like 2.5 hours right downtown.
Ugh.
I think I tweeted like the whole
your
time.
Car have that like it basically you can be on your phone because it reminds you to go. Or have the cruise control on in my car. It will basically stop you and then start you again.
Oh yeah, no, mine doesn't do that. I had a rental that did that for a while. That was pretty
out a little too.
Yeah, well, and even so, this one doesn't do the braking assist or anything, but the rental would do that stuff. I didn't like that at all, where it would like brake for you.
Yeah, it's too much. I could never get one of those self-driving cars either.
Yeah, I mean, like they say that everybody's gonna have them in another 20 years.
I guess that would be nice.
Like I'm not a car guy at all, so it doesn't matter. But
But if there's a certain, maybe I'll go like let's say a few people start getting them. I'll get in on it like 10 years when it's like really.
The thing that I find interesting about it is the completely self-driving cars. When you have to start talking about the ethics of like
Can
death.
somebody like hack that computer?
Well, right, but even more to the point, if everything is under control of by computers, right, and they're able to make a determination, they can save both cars by stopping one of them, but it's going to kill the other person, and they could do it either way. How do you choose? Like, how do you value the life? Which person are you going to save? Those are the kind of things that actually will happen, and actually happen faster. Like, will occur sooner than you think, because
so then it's like computers are making judgments,
right? And how do you program those computers to make those judgments? Do you factor in the age of the person? Well, what if
but in these scenarios though, if everybody has a self-driving car, let's say it's mandatory, won't there not be any accidents?
Right, there shouldn't be, but there still will be. Like the wind still blows. Why?
Is it like the car just drives itself and you can like you don't even have an option for the steering wheel?
That's eventually the way it's going to be. And the Teslas now, the Teslas that are out there with us, like not the base level model. Maybe, I don't know about that, but like the next level up drives itself. Like, you're not supposed to do it, but it will do it. Like, people they drive themselves and will park themselves too.
It's pretty cool though.
It is really neat. I know. It's
don't
really
have it.
No, but the future is amazing, and we're really.
I think like they say, it's mandatory for cars 2016 and above to have a camera now.
Well, right. Oh, I think yeah. It might have been 2012, but you're right.
Like, how expensive is that really for them to do?
Oh, it's dirt cheap. It should have been a law even sooner. It really should have been a law even sooner. I mean, like when I was my son's age, friends of the family, like the father backed over their kid and killed him. Like, I mean, like that happened.
Even like setting up those things, like if you're gonna run something over to warn you.
Right. I mean, like, so and that's another one of those things. Like Ralph Nader had to sue them to get seatbelts put in. I mean, I understand, but there's the downside to conservatism, if you want, and they call it whatever, end stage capitalism or whatever. But you got to sue them to get the cameras put in, or have laws to have seatbelts.
To have the car have an extra camera so you don't run over anything when you're backing up, just to help you out a little.
Well, but so 2 things real quick. That gets back to the book in the sense that
you want to talk after.
Well, I don't know if we can because of the way that I have to play this thing. So, like, I gotta play it, and then it'll be attached.
You just stop it, and then like the video. You can do the video a little bit after and just embed it in.
Release the video later, yeah, but that's fine. I guess we should just do that. I'll send you a link to another. I'll open up another studio. All right. Let's see. I should probably do that. I really want to play it. The interview was very good. It starts out rough, like everything of mine, but I'm still very proud of it. Certainly, I think everything but the beginning is good. I think everything but the beginning of almost every one of these shows is good. We may have petered out a little bit at the end of this one. Oh, it's your doggy. But I'm still very proud of each and every one of these BioBooks episodes.
Oh yeah, sorry about that. We ADHD'd our way out of this episode.
Yeah, well, you know what? I a lot of times I save my medication for the evenings for these shows. I didn't this time either. So,
Fine, though. I like it.
yeah, it was like I was saying. The show's good. I'm proud. I'm proud of each and every one of the shows. I think that the starts are always the worst, and that's what I was saying when you walked away. Was that I really want to just attach this to the end of this, and then I can try and open up another studio or something if you want to chat a little bit more.
Okay.
But that way, this is all closed and we aired it because she was so nice
Feel
her
more
time,
comfortable.
and she seems like such a nice person. So let's do that, and then I'll see if I can get a link and going.
Okay, cool.
It is again Shannon Rosa, and we will send out like her Twitter and everything else.
Yeah, we will. So what do I do? Can I get out?
You can leave if you'd like here. In fact, I'll remove you, and then, like I said, it starts sort of all jumbly because that's just.
Population who had heart attacks
And here you go.
because of this treatment administered as something to cure their autism.
Yeah.
So
And sorry, I'm a licensed social worker, and so and I work with families with intellectual disabilities, developmental disabilities, and people with autism, or autistic people. I'm sorry. In the sense of, so we have a contract with the Department of Developmental Services to do all of their mental health for the area in Massachusetts I live in, and how I would describe sort of how the anti-vaxxers, it was false hope. It was giving hope to parents who wanted they needed answers, and it made a lot of sense. And then it was sort of like this idea that was too good to be true almost, wouldn't you say?
yeah, no, it definitely was. Oh, there's Leo.
Hey, Leo.
Say hi.
How you doing? Are you having a good day?
You want to say hi, my dude? You say hello?
Hello,
Hello.
What do you need, my friend?
muffin with butter.
I can definitely give you one later. Can you let me talk to my friends?
Muffin with
You can have it. Yeah.
tomorrow.
Well, no, you can have it later tonight. All right? Do you mind if I talk to my friends?
Make you a lassie.
I can do that later too. So.
I like his beard.
Oh yeah, no, he's had a full beard since he was 17. It's impressive.
Yeah.
So his dad is quite jealous. So no, where were we? We were talking about chelation and the idea of false hope. And if we get back to I know, sweetheart. If we get back to the idea of neurodiversity.
Shannon, sorry. If you need to step away, you can. We're cool.
Oh, we're good. He'll let
Okay.
me know if this isn't gonna work. My husband is at a conference in Washington D.C. right now, so
Going surfboard.
we'll go surfing as soon as we can find people who can support you with that. Leo's surf organization, unfortunately, that does annual events, hasn't been happening since the pandemic.
I would imagine the pandemic has been tough. In fact, that was a question that I had, not to change the subject or anything, but if, let's say that the chelation and vaccine thing did probably the worst amount of damage, well, if that did the worst amount of damage, what would you say right now currently is the thing? I had an interesting thought that called Stephen, my friend Sig here, about, which was, I felt like right when I met my wife around 2008, the numbers kept jumping. And if they had done a better job of tying the numbers jumping to the idea of autism being something along a spectrum, where there's people from, there's people all types of different people that sort of fall into it. It might have helped people more like me who are like watching these numbers going up, just saying, well, this is fake. This is part of the anti-vax problem, actually,
Yeah, no, I mean, the thing is, as I don't have the entire timeline of NeruoTribes in my head, but one of the things it does explain very clearly is that when the DSM was expanded to include people who didn't just fit the classic profile of autism, and it expanded to include people like Leo with intellectual disability, and it also expanded to include people who at the time,
Muffin with butter.
I know, Boo, at the time were diagnosed with Asperger's, which is no longer part of the spectrum. that is when the numbers exploded. So it didn't actually have anything to do with increased diagnosis. And then it was, in fact, coupled. Now we see that since that period, even in the time since Leo was diagnosed, the numbers keep going up and up and up. The prevalence is what I should say. And the explanation, the majority explanation that you will see if you go to like the CDC's page, the NIH's page, then it has to do with both the expansion of the DSM and with better awareness and detection.
Yeah, and like that. See, if that was,
So I think like
I think that maybe I don't know. There just seems like there was a little bit of steam lost between 2008 and maybe now, really,
Yeah, I think that I wouldn't know if I would say that was a steam loss. I mean, that was definitely the high period of anti-vax was from around 2008 to 2015. So the Jenny McCarthy era.
Oh yeah.
Until we got to the Disneyland outbreak of measles at 2015, when finally all of the misinformation that the anti-vaxxers sowed came back around and bit them and the rest of the United States in the ass, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that is what happened. But I would say that, and this is why I do the work I do at Thinking Person's Guide to Autism now, is that I truly believe that if families got neurodiversity informed education about how to support their autistic kids, however much support their kids need, whether they're like my friend here, who's a 24/7 kind of dude, or whether they're people who can be okay.
Does he sleep at all?
He does now. He does sleep now. That's the thing. Our kids mature as they grow, a lot of them, and they change. But the thing is, if I knew when Leo was first diagnosed what I know now mostly from listening to autistic people about how they experience the world as autistic people, whether it's through things like sensory issues or processing delays, or including things like why they wouldn't want to eat food, why it's so stressful to be around so many other people, how they can hear noises that nobody else can hear, and that might make you absolutely unable to tolerate being in a room. You will get one later, sweetheart, I promise.
Yeah, I think James could speak on some of the
well, so it's interesting.
Starting to discover in himself.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's exactly it. I don't know exactly how much Sig has explained to you, but I found myself on my first date with my wife now. She said to me on our date or like during dinner or something, she said, like 5 years ago, we would have diagnosed you with Asperger's in the DSM-4. It's always been a joke my whole life, and it was still kind of kicked around. I mean, like we still kicked it around as sort of a joke, although maybe not my wife, and she might be able to come down and speak to it herself. But my family and everybody always kicked it around as a joke. And as I started reading the book and I started reading the parents' stories, they could have all have been my mom, right?
Yeah, he's talking about so the article, he wrote the article, the geek syndrome, and then they wrote letters to him.
When you mean Steve Silberman when he wrote that?
Yes.
Yeah, are you still in touch with him?
Of course.
Yeah, he's an amazing writer.
Yeah, I actually drove by his house this afternoon, although I didn't say hi to him.
Yeah, how did he sort of link up with you?
That's not gonna work. Okay, so back in 2010, when iPads just came out, Leo actually just kind of inadvertently became this iPad star for autism, and he was featured when the iPad 2 video came out about how amazing iPads were and how they changed the world. He was part of that video, and there are all these articles about him. He, and how the iPad was amazing for autistic kids. He was in the New York Times. He was in the Washington Post and all these things. And Steve had been on top of all of those articles. And so he contacted me because he was considering having one of his chapters in NeruoTribes be about autism and tech. And so that's how we connected.
Yeah, I think, sorry, Clouded, but I think what this book does is it's so kind. I think it's just sort of like the perfect book for anybody's introduction to the history of autism understanding autism better, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
He has a way of writing where, like, I think it for early on he explains that he doesn't really, there's nobody in his life immediately that is touched in any way, but it's the next step up. And the way he writes though is like he writes like he's part of the family, or at least that's how it comes across. And Ian, I love the way he writes about Asperger, and I actually kind of even like the way he writes about Canner so far. We're not completely.
Well, the thing about Steve, and I don't want to speak for him, but I can tell you about him that he is a deeply compassionate person, and it was truly important for him not only to tell these stories, but to tell them in a way that would be as accessible and moving as possible to get these messages across. So he put real care into his writing, not just to make it fluid, but to make it engaging. And then I think you can really tell he has an MA in poetry, and I think it shows.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Well, anyways, so what right now is the sort of the top issue, the top issue, sort of that you're working on? Because I believe in your bio, I mean, like this is your life. Like the sort of activism might be too grandiose of a statement, but
I would say advocacy.
Advocacy. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. Well, my role right now that I see it is to get out as much good information as possible about how we can support autistic and neurodivergent people in our lives, whether that's our family members, our children, or ourselves.
Like,
I think there's a lot of I think there's just a lot of compassion lacking in most supports for autism. I think most autism information out there is not making the lives of scared and under-resourced parents any better. I think most of it is horrible. I think most of it has to do with trying to smash autistic children into a non-autistic mold, and that everybody suffers. And
that's a bit sorry Shannon, but that is like a big thing me and him, I talked to him about. It's sort of just like, it's not an excuse, because I have ADHD, and when I found the neurodiversity, I started really thinking about how I think of myself and sort of look at, like, sort of think about my upbringing and the idea that everybody said if I was being hyper or I forgot something, that it's this, that you're just being lazy or you have to try harder. But it's like, I can't try harder. I'm trying as hard as I can.
That's the whole thing. I mean,
if I'm sorry.
Well, go ahead. I was just gonna say these are all these are such complex neurologic conditions, and the way that they are expressed in every person is unique. And again, we have these stereotypes in the media of how autistic and ADHD people are. So even when people are aware of neurodivergence and in those two conditions, that doesn't mean they actually understand how individual people are experiencing, and those stereotypes can backfire, like in situations like yours, where people are like, well, if you have ADHD, well, then you must be just like going all the time, and if you forget something, that doesn't fit the profile for me, so then you're just being lazy. Because I've met people with ADHD, and they're not like you, so you're just faking it.
Yeah, that's like the biggest thing I think is sort of like for my clients who are in college, driving, that have autism, that's what they say. That people that they meet will say, you don't look autistic. My cousin has autism and he's like this,
Yeah.
And I think that what I'm finding coming from a very different background from all of this is that I think the area that the bridge that needs to happen, that I don't think is happening enough, is sort of the way of thinking about it as not a diagnosis, but a different personality almost style.
I mean, it is definitely neurology, so it's a difference, but it also is. I think it's really important to think of autism as a disability and ADHD as a disability, because the thing about a disability that it does mean a difference, but it means a medically significant difference where you need accommodations and it's not optional. If you don't get
There's
your
the advocacy
accommodations,
hat coming in.
you don't get your accommodations, you're not going to be able to function. And the problem is when you have enough people who fit these categories who don't look like the ADHD or autistic people that other people know who might have more significant support needs, then the people who have less significant but still crucial support needs get erased. And
completely, yeah.
we have all these people suffering. And one of the biggest problems that I see actually in using the term autism as a difference, even though I think that in many cases that is also valid, is that you get people who are really, really stressed out parents of high support kids. And they'll say that, well, autism, they'll get really angry with people who they think don't have any support needs, who are autistic, who are talking about autism just being a difference or a superpower. And they're like, well, for my kid, my kid, needs 24/7 support. My kid can't brush his own teeth. My kid is destroying all, a new iPad every week. And the thing is that what these people are stressed out. Most of them have gotten the horrible information that I was talking about before. And if these people these parents had good information from neurodiversity informed sources from the get-go, their lives could have been a lot easier. And I'm not saying that they're going to be easy, because I live a life that a lot of people would consider not easy, although it's our life, it's our regular, it's our normal, that's what we do, but my brother, I had an article that I wrote in the Washington Post about being a parent to a high support autistic child and learning from autistic adults. And my brother, who I would think would know better, shared this with like, oh, this is my sister who's going through the hardest thing any parent can go through. And I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, dude. Have you not talked to me once? Like,
Leo, he's not that. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah,
God,
like,
you are Leo's swimming buddy at the beach. Like,
yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So I really think that the hardest thing right now is to get through that kind of misinformation and to get
surfing.
I so want to take you surfing, dude. I do. I promise.
Surfing is awesome.
It's not all done. It's just delayed. Would you mind going in the TV room so that I can talk to my friends? That'd be super helpful. Later on, my dude. But
is he still on the butter and bread?
Pardon?
Was it butter and bread?
He would like a Thomas's whole grain English muffin with butter, because who wouldn't?
Yep, I agree.
So, but what I was saying is that it just is really frustrating to me to know that this information is out there on neurodiversity informed parenting, on neurodiversity self-care for people who are able to access that. People are trying to get the information out there. It's free, again, but people won't listen because it's not the mainstream approach, which is to fix or cure or treat autism instead of treating autistic people like humans with support needs and whose autonomy should be respected and whose interests should be respected and whose happiness should be respected. Like, people don't focus on that. People focus on trying to make autistic kids not autistic.
Well, I'm sorry, what were you saying?
No, I was just saying, listen, this is sort of what I think you were saying something about you were out in public and there was a lot of people in public, right? And he's starting to sort of conversations.
So it's happened twice now. So I have no tools. Nobody said that this was a real thing or that I could even explain it to somebody that listen, inside here, I am losing it, right? And so I was able to just sort of say, listen, I said, I have autism. I'm going to need a moment here. It may look strange, and this was in the DMV. They had sent me through the DMV with my nephew 3 times, and I was really but anyway.
The DMV, if the DMV existed when Dante was alive, it would be one of the circles of hell.
it was something else. It really was. And
but I was telling him how proud I was because he's sort of really understanding himself better and sort of
Yeah.
being. I advocate for that for my parents, like for my clients who have high support needs to carry a card around sometimes. So if somebody's giving them crap, they can say and hand them like a business card of their son's sort of stats and like sort of tell them like, look, my son he has autism. He's a little bit different with social stuff. He might bump into you. Deal with it.
I will say the middle people, like, I mean, I just feel like the little amount of support that I could have used that would have done like so much, the little amount that I got that did so much, now that I sort of look back on it and slotted into this thing. Like, I've spent my life wondering what was sort of wrong with me, even though we were joking about it all along and everything else. But sort of when I started reading this book and accepting what everybody had been saying, and then sliding it into all these experiences in my life, it explains everything. I mean, like, I had a closet like that I would hide in and take stuff apart, electronic stuff apart for hours, and stacks of stuff, and just like but things like that over and over again. But thank you so much. I don't want we I think we said 30 minutes. We're coming up on 30 minutes.
Yeah, so I just had a few things like
even better.
Yeah. So the masking idea I learned maybe a year ago, and sort of the concept of it. It sort of has really helped me work better with my clients who it's something that I've been able to teach them a little bit about, and they've sort of just latched onto, and really that's like been a tantamount to some of my work now with them. Is like, how do you not hide who you are with your teachers?
It's really hard.
No, it is.
It's also the thing about that with masking and unmasking is it gets even more complicated for autistic and neurodivergent people of color, right? Because
gosh,
because like you were saying with the cards, like, well, if you're perceived as a nice white person, you can hand that card and people will be fine. But if you're a person of color and you're like, I just need to give you this thing from my wallet, right?
Yeah.
Right. So it gets more complicated. And so it's so hard because, yes, autistic and neurodivergent people deserve to unmask. They deserve to have spaces where they're safe. And so I recently, at Thinking Person's Guide to Autism, you can go right now. It's the very top interview. We did an interview with a wonderful autistic mom and parenting autistic. She's autistic herself. She's a parent of autistic kids, and she's a parenting coach. Her name is Supernova Mama, and she's a Black woman from Atlanta who does parenting classes to help these are kinds of things that I'm talking about. But one of the things that she said was absolutely crucial is if you don't have these spaces for yourself or for your kids in public, you can't make them in classes, then you absolutely have to make sure that the neurodivergent people in your life have some kind of safe space, like your closet, where they can go, or people that they can be around where they can be themselves. So at the very least, there needs to be some kind of space. And unfortunately, that looks like right now when this is happening organically, is it's described as kids who are keeping it together all day at class, and then they come home and they fucking explode, right? And the reason they're doing that is because of the pent-up stress, but it's also because their home is the safest place they have.
That's interesting, yeah.
Yeah. So if we made those spaces more consciously accepting, then maybe a kid could come home and, like you said, you could be like, I need some space. I had a really hard day. I'm going to go to my room. And maybe they go in there and punch a pillow or scream or stim or do whatever they need. But because they understand what's going on, they understand what masking means. They understand that they need a space to be themselves, and they're afforded that place to be themselves. Then they have a healthier setup that can allow them to be more accepting of themselves, and also give them the strength to regroup and get through the spaces where they can't be themselves.
Yeah, in my profession, there's a lot of work that needs to be done that with understanding neurodiversity better, and sort of I'm really pushing at my agency. It's this idea of neurodivergent affirming care, and just sort of like along the same lines as like transgender affirming care and trauma affirming care. It's this idea where you just let people be people and
Yeah,
sort
you
of
meet people where they're at.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've been sort of thinking a lot about this, and sort of my neurotype, I think, with ADHD, dyslexia, and OCD, really aligns with a lot of autistic people in their
That's right.
honesty.
Yeah, well,
It's the honesty.
It's
Me and
really,
BioDude just click.
yeah, he picked up on something, certainly. I mean, we met through Twitter. We actually met through a podcast, just another completely other show.
One of our special interests.
We should give it some credit, and we will later on in the show.
Okay.
But
Well, speaking of which, there's a new podcast that came out just this week. If you've heard of it, it's called The Loudest Girl in the World by Lauren Ober. And it's about an autistic adult who is going through the process of realizing that she's autistic and what that means. And I highly recommend it. I think
it's just kind of what's going on right here a little bit.
That's what I'm thinking.
A little bit, but whatever the case may be.
I'm not gonna lie to you and say I didn't pick. So I wanted a book club for just to keep me accountable. I'm not gonna read on my own, and so he's a really intelligent person, and I knew he would like books. So we read the Mindhunter book about sort of so then I decided, why don't we try this book? And because I sort of knew that it would sort of spark this sort of rich conversation we could have with each other, and so I help him, and it's something I'm very passionate about.
And I have a psychiatrist and a therapist, and actually they're kind of at two ends of the spectrum on the spectrum as far as me. My psychiatrist absolutely thinks wants to have the full neuropsych done, thinks that like it's Asperger's or whatever. And my therapist is like, I'll just tell you, my therapist is like, this is you're a genius, and this is emotional. This is emotional parental neglect. Is really so. I know, right? I know. I may have to cut this out because I love her to death. But like, I mean, I married a woman who has her BCBA, and on her first date, she said, I mean, like, so. You know, I don't know where I fall yet either, but
yeah, he's figuring it out.
You hear stories about things like, I have a friend who has a formal autism diagnosis, and she was invited to enroll in an autism study, and part of them was doing an autism evaluation, even though they had recruited autistic people. And after she went through the process, and they're like, we don't consider you to be autistic. And it was just...
Yeah, well, that's the thing too. That's the thing about getting the neuropsych. I spent my whole life like it's been like I said, it's been like an ongoing joke thing. It's ridiculous that I would fall into it, start reading these books and stuff. I don't need it. I'm pretty sure that's the case. But it would be. I don't feel like I'm a spokesperson for it, and I wouldn't want to be unless I had like a full neuropsych done, and then I wouldn't even really want to be because I don't think I'm very good at being a spokesperson. But
I think like how
on
Shannon brought up that podcast. I think that's
exactly
what a spokesperson is, just talking about yourself and your experiences, and that's what the world sort of needs, more people that are loud and are comfortable sharing their story.
Yeah. I mean, the more representation we have of different ways of being autistic, the better.
Yeah. Well, thank you again.
Like I said, you made my week because I was dealing with COVID in the family, and it was just like, it was just awesome that you responded, and I just want to say one thing about the stories about the straws and how you had that crew of people. That was like one of my favorite, like. And I can picture it in my head, like you recruiting them. Yeah,
it was a fun time.
Yeah, it did seem like a fun time. It seemed like it's a really cute story.
Yeah, well, he's a great guy, and I'm glad you got to meet him too.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you again for
in our eyes.
Time.
All right.
Peace. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Have a good night.